Hello and welcome to this preview of my course Strategic Technology and Innovation Management. My name is Espen Andersen and I'll give you an introduction to, well, myself, the course, and what you need to prepare. Okay, let's start by introducing myself. This is a long list, so I'll just do the short things. My name is Espen Andersen. I have taught at BI since 1996. I've taught in Shanghai since 2004, this course in various incarnations. I also teach at the Computer Science Department at the University of Oslo. I have been an international consultant and speaker for many years. I'm on the board of a number of companies. Anyway, you'll get to meet me at the course, so we'll learn to know each other there. My mission in life and the point of this course is to give you an understanding of the relationship between three things. The first one is technology, and by technology I don't mean necessary boxes and cables and machines and motors and things like that, but I see technology as the way we do things, our approach to doing things. And technology changes over time, and it changes according to certain patterns, and much of the course will be spent talking about how technology changes. And the reason we want to know that is because technology changes the business environment. So when the technology changes, you can get a new competitor that is enabled by a different kind of technology than your own. You have to change your own technology, your own way of doing things, your own products or services, because the technology has changed. And in some cases, your company even may be wiped out because somebody comes in with a new technology that you're not able to respond to. So it's very, very important to understand how technology changes, because then you understand the changes to the business environment. And when the changes in business environment occurs, then you have to change the company's strategy. You have to decide what to do. The most important thing about this is that this takes time. When the technology changes, it influences the business environment, and then the changes in the business environment force you to change your strategy. But if that's the way you manage, if that's the way you lead, then you're frequently too late. What you have to do is to understand the changes in technology so that you can take advantage of the technology and change your strategy before the business environment forces you to do so. And that's, if there's one thing I'm trying to teach you in this course is how to understand and manage this dynamic. And that's very hard. There are several areas in which I want you to have capability and understanding at the end of this course. The first is technology evolution, how technology changes. The second one is technology impact. What does it mean that the technology changes, and how do you analyze and understand that? Then there is technology competition. How do you compete in a technological environment? Because it's very different from just producing faster, better, cheaper. And lastly, technology management, which is how do you lead and the technology part of an organization. That may be the IT department, it may be the technology development department, if you're in a high-tech industry. In software, for instance, that will be your main product. In some businesses, how do you relate to the people doing data analysis, which is an exciting new thing coming up and more companies are looking at. So some detail here. In technology evolution, you're trying to understand how technology evolves, and there are mechanisms and you can understand them. There's a good literature out there about how technology evolves over time and how that influences markets. Technology impact, and that is understanding how technology, in particular information technology, impacts work, individuals, and organizations. Technology competition, that is, it's just not just buying more technology and trying to use it, is using it under, wisely and in a way that enhances your competitive situation. And if you're in a technology business, how do you respond to what your competitors are doing technologically? And lastly, technology management, and that's two-sided. It's understanding how to manage people that are technologists, because they're a different kind of employee in many cases than say somebody who is a production worker or a clerk or a middle manager. And then there's also something about understanding the interaction between the technology part of an organization and the organization itself, the business part, how they connect to each other. And there are various ways of structuring that relationship. And it's important because that relationship, well, sometimes doesn't work so well in many organizations. I have to underscore that all of this is done from a top management perspective. This is not a course that will teach you how to do analytics or how to use your PC or what dynamic or agile systems development is. It's not that kind of course. This is as seen from the top manager, and for how you as a top manager should relate to and understand the technology parts of the business. So just let me underscore that right away. It's not a hands-on technology course. Certainly could do that, but I think within the span of those 4 days, we have to concentrate on what's important. And furthermore, an MBA degree is a top management degree. That's what you're aiming for, isn't it? All right, an overview of the module, and this is a very loose description of what the content will be. You'll find the literature in the memo to class that I've written, and I like to run my classes in a discussion fashion. So, there may be things in here that changes. Also, it changes according to what you want to hear about. If you have interests or things that you think are important, just send me an email, and I'll see to what extent I can incorporate it. So the first day we'll talk about the role of technology in the organization. Information technology in general, it shouldn't just say IT here, and how it changes the business. IT is a strategic tool and enabler, and also we'll use the chain shop network framework, which you should be familiar with from strategy, to analyze the role of technology in the organization. At night, there will be a case discussion as groups. You will analyze and present cases. I'll get back to how that's done. The next day, we'll talk about leading technology, spend some time on that. From the, how do you lead and structure the technology part of the organization? Various discussions there about the role of the CIO, CTO, how that works. Might use some cases in there as well. At night there is a new case, and that's a case about innovation in an industrial context. It's a very well-known case called Nipro. Very exciting case. So you'll discuss that as a group and make a presentation, which we start today with. Day 3, technology evolution. We'll talk about how technology changes over time. In particular, we'll talk about something called technology disruption, or disruptive technology or disruptive innovations, which is a concept developed by, mainly by a Harvard professor named Clay Christensen, and we'll try to explore that in some depth, because it is very, very important. It's perhaps one of the most difficult management challenges is how to defend yourself when somebody is hitting you with a disruptive innovation. So you need to understand what it is and what you can do about it. Lastly, the sort of loose theme for the last day is the future of technology. Where is technology going? How can we understand the future? How can we understand things like exponential growth? How can we understand this explosion of data and what you can do with it? So we'll talk about that. Again, start the day with a case presentation and so on and so forth. And we'll end that day with an in-class exam, and I'll get back to that. Now, one of the least favorite things I do is grade students. I really much more prefer to discuss and to teach, and the grading is the hard part, but it has to be done. And here's the way it's structured in this course. There are 3 elements to it. First, there is the group case analysis every day, every night. That's 3 nights then. You will work in groups and analyze a case and make a presentation. It's very important that all the students in the group participate in creating this solution to the case, and that you are all ready to present. So what happens the next day is that some of the groups will present their solution to the rest of the class. I will pick which groups, so you all have to prepare, and I will also pick which students in each group that will present. So everybody in the group has to be ready to present. That is 35% of your grade, applied equally to the whole group. Then there is an in-class exam. That's for 2 hours at the end of the Sunday. And the purpose of that exam is mainly to check that you read the literature and understood it. So it is, you get some questions that you have to answer in a document, and then you email that document to me. Most students actually think this is a very good way to sort of have an individual evaluation, because you can have it, it's short, you have it in the course, and that means that when the course is over, you're finished. And for me, it means that I get the exams very quickly, and I can do the grading as soon as possible and send you feedback on the course while you still remember it. Lastly, there is an element, about 25% of the grade, that's driven by participation. This course is a course where you have to talk in class. You have to participate in the discussion. And, you know, that means that students that have sharp and smart and good comments in class gets extra points. They get a better grade. I will not... let's put it this way, if you say something stupid in class, I will not give you a worse grade. You can only go up by talking in class. And then I know that there are some people who don't like to talk in class, sometimes people tell me that, in particular, Chinese students don't want to talk in class. That later years, I don't think that's been a problem, but and to that I have to say that an MBA is a management education, and as a manager you have to talk to other people in class, often in an international setting, and I think it's much better to do that in a class setting, like you are now, rather than having to try that out for the first time in a real job. So look at the classroom as a place where you can experiment and test out your style. Anyway, those are the 3 elements of grading. What I'm looking for when I grade is I look for understanding and learning from module. Have you read the literature? Have you understood what it says? Have you participated and understood what we're discussing in class? And then, you know, I'm also looking for an ability to analyze and an ability to draw your own conclusions. I really like students, and I think managers should be able to think independently. And you will find in these case discussions and in the discussions that there aren't necessarily any right answers. In all of these cases, there are things the company could do, and we'll use more cases than just the 3 at night. You know, there's always, you can always say, but they could have done this instead of that, and that might be entirely right. There is no right answer to a case discussion. The idea is to understand the spectrum of solutions, and then, you know, you pick one of them and argue for them because that appeals most to you, but somebody else might think another way of doing things is good, and that's fine. That's what life is like. So grading, I'm a fairly tough grader. So the way I describe it is to say that students that just repeat what's in the book without independent thinking and analysis, basically that I read this, I can repeat it, that will at most give you a C. Students who synthesize well, you sort of say, I read this here and this here, put that together, oh, that means something. They will, you know, be able to get a B. And students who surprise and delight the teacher by their sharp analysis and independent, well-formulated and original thinking will get an A. And I'm happy to say that, you know, I am able to hand out A's in this course quite often. I generally, it's an elective course, and in general I find that, you know, the students who pick this course are smart and interested and engaged, and I really enjoy teaching it. Okay, preparation. Read the book. The book is about one part of it, IT management. You can read it with a sort of narrow focus and say this is how you run an IT department, but you can also say that any lesson that's in there applies to anybody who's running technology in general. So the questions that are in there are you know, certainly pertinent to many functional departments. There are articles in there that you should read. You may find other things you think are pertinent. That's fine with me. There is a pre-work requirement that you do an analysis of the technology situation in your own company. What are important technologies and so on. See the memo in class for details about that, and hand it in. Then, you know, be prepared for debate. This is a course where people discuss and have different opinions, and you know, if you're not prepared, you can't participate in the discussion, and that's a drawback in many senses, because you learn much more if you're well prepared and can discuss this. It is actually, I very often find that students who read something and prepare individually, and then they have one. They think, okay, this is the way to do it, okay, the solution. And then they have a group discussion. And I certainly, you know, ask you, do group discussions beforehand. Maybe even meet before the class starts and prepare the case together as a group, even before we start the course. So people get together in a group, and then they discuss the case. And then their opinion changes, and they think, okay, maybe this is the right solution. And then we get into the whole classroom, and we have a classroom discussion about the case, and then people's opinion change again. Oh, okay, maybe I thought this and the group thought this, but actually I think this is the right way to do things. And I think that's very fascinating, because it teaches you something about the depth of problems, and a sort of multi-staged and very complicated way of or job it is of being a manager. This technology thing, that's where the action is. There's tremendous excitement about technology in its many forms now. This is where the fun is. It certainly is what I think is fun. I'm very much looking forward to meeting you, and well, let's have fun.